Like imposter syndrome was planted in me since I was a young Black girl, told that she was too loud and too defiant. And when you tell somebody that who doesn't have a mature brain yet, they're going to think that they're bad, they're not wanted. And then as my life kept going, I kept hearing it. So those roots that were planted basically sprouted into this tree that grew as I grew. And so it permeated everything I did. And then when I realized, like, oh, wait, the people in power are very happy with us feeling inferior.
Welcome, honeys in training, and all of those who love us. I'm Felicia Pride, writer, filmmaker, and founder of media and production company Honey Child, where we tell stories that speak to Black women of a certain age with love. And you are tuning into one of our things, It's Good Over Here. It's Good Over Here is your ticket to the delicious adventures in Honeyland. It's a celebration of how good it can get on the other side of 40 across career, life, and love. In each episode, we offer inspiration and insight on aging boldly because, honey, it is good over here. Hey, honeys. My guest today is Deesha Dyer, an award-winning event strategist, community leader, author, keynote speaker, and a former White House social secretary for the Obama administration. She's the founder and CEO of Hook and Fasten, a social impact firm. She was a 2019 resident fellow for the Harvard Kennedy School Institute of Politics, and ever focused on championing the next generation of Black powerhouses. She also heads up the Black Girl 44 Scholarship Fund and the Deesha Dyer Second Chance Scholarship. Her work has led her to being named one of Marie Claire's New Guard of Women Changing the World, and one of the Root's most influential African Americans. Her career reflects her passion for civic engagement, strengthening our communities, and for encouraging others to be the change they want to see in the world. Welcome, Deesha, to It's Good Over Here.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here with you. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yes, and I attended an event, y'all, at the fancy Netflix headquarters, where it was put on by a few affinity groups, I think like the Black group, the Blacks group, and the women group. And it was it was a talk with you about your book, Undiplomatic. And I was so moved and inspired by your talk, your story, your perspective. You were so down to earth. You were just dropping gems like effortlessly. And I was like, who is this woman? And I need to have her on. It's Good Over Here. So I'm so super excited that you're here because your story is amazing. It's amazing. And that's what I kind of want to get started with. You're a Philly girl, right? And yes. And you talked about how, you grew up in not the best circumstances, right? But clearly had a certain determination to do big things. Yeah. And big things meaning changing your community, right? Big things meaning, work at the White House. But I wonder how that all came together. Take us a little bit back to Philly and how it all came together.
Definitely. So again, it is an honor to be here with you, and so excited that you were at the Netflix event, which was wild. It was wonderful. So, for me, Philadelphia was my home. It's where I was born. But then I went to boarding school in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So I kind of bid my time between Hershey and Philadelphia. But once I graduated high school and did not get accepted to the only college I wanted to go to, which was Howard University, I went to University.
Bisons, y'all hear that?
Yeah, the Bisons.
They made a mistake, honey.
The Bison said nah. And so that was that. And so I went to University of Cincinnati. And then when I went there, I had ended up dropping out of school, and went back to Philadelphia. And I think when I went back to Philly as, a 20-something-year-old, I was very steeped in HIV/AIDS work by then. I was very steeped in women's rights stuff, Black rights, trans rights before it was trendy. And so I wanted to be a social worker. And I was, in the hip hop community, writing about hip hop for a local magazine and newspaper, attending a bunch of shows. And I wanted to be a social worker. And I was like, how do I be a social worker in Philadelphia? And it was go back to school. And so I went back to community college. And
in your 20s, right? In your late 20s?
I was 28 years old. And I think that, Philadelphia was the perfect thing. I was home with my family. Community college was a little bit slower for me. It was obviously less expensive. So it fit everything that I needed at that time that I probably needed at 17. and just was like, I'm
Mhm.
too good for community college. It's a 13th grade,
So, and
like,
I just want to say I'm glad you say that because I'm a big
mhm,
proponent of community colleges. I've taught at several in Maryland,
mm,
and the resources can be tremendous. Like you said, it can be inexpensive. It can be a way to get your foot
mhm,
in and get acclimated
yeah,
to a college
mhm,
experience. So I'm so
mhm.
glad that you're talking about the value that it had in your life.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that I was a writer at the time. I always wrote poems and wrote little articles here and there and had a zine and, a blog like everybody else and all that. So I've always loved writing. And so when I went back to college, that ended up being such a blessing for me because I wrote these amazing papers about, Black women activists. And I wrote about like the things I needed, and people were just, they were just floored. They were just like,
Mm.
have you ever considered being a full time writer? And I was like, absolutely not. Like, how much money do they make? Like, I was like, I can't make
Same.
no money. Like, I'm not
Right.
doing
How do
it.
you make money as a writer?
What you
Like
mean?
make it
What you
make sense.
mean? Yeah, and I was making $10 an article at the time. So
Ooh,
I was like, I don't know how y'all that was like, that was
you're like a
spending money at
thousand
the party.
words for $10,
Yeah,
child.
it's like that was spending money at the party. So it was like, okay. And so when I applied for the White House internship in 2009, I was mesmerized by Barack Obama. And I was just
Mhm.
a girl in West Philly, but I was a girl in West Philly who knew how to write. And so the essays that I wrote for the White House internship application got the eyes of the White House. And they
Wow.
interviewed me. And then I ended up being a White House intern at age 31.
That
Um, uh,
we need to underscore that.
31. Yeah,
31 years
I was
old. And also
31.
this wasn't a paid internship. This was free.
Oh, child, no, it was free. It was free, and I wanna say that I was like, "I don't know how I'm gonna make this work," but I got a couple
Mm,
$100 in the bank, and I went
mhm.
and rented a room in a house that 2 people were getting a divorce, and their daughter was off at college, and they were renting her room because they needed money for their divorce. That is where
Oh.
I
Well,
stayed.
first
So I
of all,
was like,
that's the story. Honey,
you
that's the
know
next story you need to write.
we do what we gotta do. I'm be in my room
Wow.
eating my little tuna. Like, you know what I mean? I ain't go I just need to use the bathroom
Right.
and the kitchen and I be
Whatever
in the
y'all
room
got
eating.
going on, I don't.
That's not for
But I
me.
just want to take
That's
a
not
quick
for
step.
me.
I want to take a quick step back because I'm curious about your spirit of activism. Where did that come from?
Hmm.
Was that already
Yeah.
just in you? Was that cultivated from your community, from your family? Where did that come
Hmm.
from? Because it seemed
Hmm.
to be the thing that drove you and got you to the White House.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say that definitely my family, especially my father, he was very strong in his opinions and
Mhm.
his actions with stuff, especially around, Black people. He was friends with the Black Panthers in Philadelphia. So,
Okay.
we part-time ate pork, that kind of vibe. And so I think I
Bacon on
always,
special occasion.
yeah, and I think that I was always told that I was very loud, I was very bold, I was in a not positive way. And so for
Mhm.
me, when HIV/AIDS came along and I was, in junior high, I was just mesmerized by the whole thought process that, it was only people who, were in, homosexual relationships and drug
Mhm.
users. And I was like, this don't sound right. This sounds like
Mhm.
discrimination. And I was
Mhm.
only in junior high. And I was like, my
Wow.
mind was like, this is not right. And so when Ryan White got
Mhm.
AIDS, the boy who got AIDS, I wanted to be his friend. And because I couldn't, because he lived in another state, I
Yeah.
started being active with people who had HIV/AIDS around my community. And
Wow.
that's when it all started. And for me, I never looked at it like, this is something that is noble. This is something that is, to be rewarded. It was like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Mm,
Like, you're
mhm,
supposed to stand up for people. You're supposed to make your voice known. I
mhm,
think that, I didn't catch the wave of like, you could be a leader. I got the opposite of like, you're so defiant, like you're such a big mouth.
mm.
And so I didn't get, the lean in
To
treatment.
lean in, right,
You know what
right,
I'm saying?
right, right.
I got the like,
All back.
precious, like, you know what I mean? So I was just like, so I think but that's what I clung to because that's what I loved. And then people started appreciating the fact that I was loud and bold, but
Mhm.
that didn't do me any favors, as far as like being in the professional setting. So that's where
Well,
it came
speaking
from.
of that, so you're
Mhm.
31. Okay.
Mhm.
And you're going to the White House and you
Mhm.
told a story at Netflix about just like your what do you wear? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea. You know, I was a hip hop writer. I was a part time student. I was a peer counselor, and I was a secretary. But I didn't know what to wear. I thought that people khakis were appropriate because I was like, they're not jeans, and they're
Right.
not like sweatpants, and they're not tights, and so like they're dressy. So I wore a
Yeah.
pair of like khaki black pants and
Mhm.
a blazer from Ross Dress for Less and some fake
Mhm.
glasses, and so I wanted to look smarter. But then I walked in and everybody else was wearing blue and black blazers, and I was like, "Is this a
Mhm.
uniform? Like, are we being severance? Like, what's happening?" So it was very much, just a fish out of water.
What did
Yeah.
you have to tell yourself to just
Mhm.
even show up, right? What
Yeah.
was the script that you had to tell yourself?
Honestly, Felicia, I think that I was like, I'm gonna keep riding this wave till they kick me out. Like I kept thinking like this is a mistake. Like for real. I was like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
has to be a mistake, or they
Mm,
got too many and they're gonna be like, thank you so much. You're
mm,
leaving. So I was just like in my whole mind, I was like, is this real? Like with each day waking up
mm.
or moving down to DC or getting up that morning like 3 hours before and catching the train because I didn't want to be
Mm,
late. I like sat
mm.
in a coffee shop like sipping water like I don't want to be late. I don't want to be
Yeah,
late.
yeah.
And so I think that I just told myself like this is a dream and I'm eventually gonna wake up, and I did 8 years later.
Hey, ooh. And so what was your kind of goal? Did you have a goal getting into the White House? What were you thinking it
Mhm.
might help you do?
That's a great question. My goal was honestly to learn who I needed to know, like to meet people in
Mhm.
order to help with the work I was doing back home. So I figured, if I knew the president or somebody that worked at the White House, like,
Right.
I know I like just skipped over city council, mayor, and senate,
Yeah,
and I
like
figure if I knew, what can they do? I want to meet the president. I figure I would meet somebody who would
Mhm,
help me get money for the community back home, for organizations that I was working with. That was my whole point. It was
yeah.
never to, I definitely didn't think I was going to be hired back or want to because I was still in college. So I never was like, oh yeah, my next step is to get hired here. It was like, great, that was a great experience. I'm connected to some people. Let me see how far I can take this.
And you took it far, like you said, 8
I
years later,
did.
and over that 8 years, you served as social secretary to President First Lady Barack and Michelle Obama. You served as deputy
Mhm,
director and deputy
mhm,
social secretary and special assistant to the president and social secretary. Talk about first of all what those
mhm.
jobs are, right? Because some of us
Yes.
do not know. But talk
Yeah.
about that period of time, and I can only imagine
Mhm.
both the awe of it, the pressure of
Yeah.
it as well. Talk
Yes.
about that time.
Yeah, so I got hired as the person that was in Department of Scheduling and Advance, which was the department that I was an intern in. And so we handled all the president's schedules, like minute by minute, all the meetings, the correspondence for his time, and
Mhm.
his travel. And that's definitely not the department I wanted. I wanted like a policy or a
Right.
Michelle Obama, like helping girls. And they were like, yeah, you'll be in scheduling and travel. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
But it ended up being the most amazing internship with the best
Mm.
people in the best department. So after I got hired, I said, I want to travel more with the president and first lady and find out what that's like being on the road and going to all these places. And
Mhm.
so I applied for the deputy hotel logistics, which is handling all their lodging on the road, which meant staying
Mhm.
in 4-star hotels and
Mhm.
5-star hotels, like because they had to stay in them. So I mean, so did I. And I was like, this is fantastic.
Right.
And so I did that for a while until I moved to deputy social secretary.
Mhm.
And I moved to deputy social secretary because there was an opening. And also, that was the department that dealt with all the people coming in the White House. And I was like, oh, I
Mm.
can get
This
everybody
is
back
the
home in the
goal,
door.
right.
Like this is like everybody whenever. Oh, I'm down for that. And so I moved over there, and the social office sits in the first lady's office in the East Wing. So the president basically is the West Wing, First Lady is the East Wing, and you basically help execute the vision of the president and First Lady for all the events at 1600 Pennsylvania. So you
Wow.
help, like, you work with the residence team to like the butlers, the chefs, the ushers, the operations team, communication, the curators. You help with the guest list. What is the music going to be like? What's the food going to be like? So
Yeah.
you are in charge of all of that. And then when my boss, Jeremy Bernard, left, I went for the social secretary role and then got that. So yeah, that was kind of the trajectory.
I love this story, and you also tell a story about the interview you had with First Lady Michelle Obama,
Hmm.
and I think she asked you one question.
One question. She only asked me, "Do you have the confidence to do this role?" I think she had known me for a while now. She had known that I do good work. She had known that I could do the job. I think it was more the confidence that, I didn't have to do that job. And also the role is so public that, you're taking hits left and right from all types of people. And I think that she was like, "Are you sure that you're ready for this?" Because that's what I'm probably not worried, but that's what I'm most concerned about, you giving you this job. Then
Mhm.
after I lied and said, "Of course I do," she then gave me the role.
Well, how did you then you lie because that's what we do, but then how did you step into that
Yeah.
confidence of the role? Because you were amazing in that role.
Thank
How
you.
did you step into that confidence?
For me, a lot of it was a team that I was very lucky and blessed to have, not just the social office team, but the residence team. And what happens with the residence team, like the butlers and the chefs and the florists, is that they don't leave with each president. They stay president to president. And
Mhm,
so they have this institutional knowledge of how
mhm,
things go. And
mhm,
they were very helpful. I went around and learned like each job and how, introduce myself, and a lot of them knew me from being a deputy, so that was really helpful. But I think that that's number one. I lean very much on them, and then number two, although my confidence may be lacking, my work ethic is never. So
mm,
so for me, I was like, I'm going to work hard and do the best I can, and in this job, and be authentic, and hope that shines over my lack of confidence in myself and my ability to do this job. And it just so happens that it did,
mhm.
until it didn't. until like I came face to face with that. But I definitely was like, I'm just going to have to work really hard, because I was afraid what people would say about me, that I didn't deserve the job. But if I did a great job, even if they thought that I didn't deserve it, I was proving them wrong
They
by
can't
doing
deny
such a
the
good job.
work.
They can't deny
Yeah.
the work. And so that's really the combination of, and a lot of trial and error. I made a lot of mistakes, but the public just couldn't tell, which is great.
But you do mention that I think it was, like, one of your first big high profile events, the Washington Post
Hmm.
wrote someone on the at the Washington Post wrote an article kinda questioning, like, "Who are you to have this job?"
Hmm.
And that story hit me because 'cause I'm like, "Child, I woulda" not to say I woulda rolled up at his house, but, like, how do you deal with that type of public scrutiny when you haven't
Yeah.
even had a chance to prove yourself?
Yeah. Well, that
Or
article,
you had been proving yourself
yeah,
the
I
whole way
had.
as
So that
well.
article was because the Washington social scene, which is very deep here, a lot of deals get done that way. They didn't know who I was, because I
Mm,
didn't go out to a lot of parties. I wasn't seen a lot. That wasn't my role, and I wasn't super interested. If I would
mhm,
had some time off,
mhm,
I was sleeping. So, or eating. So the Washington Post basically had to do an article on me, because people didn't know who I was. So that was
mhm,
number one. And then there was an article that followed up by the New York Times, when the Pope and President Xi from China and the United Nations General Assembly in New York happened, and I had like a trifecta of events, and it basically questioned whether I was up for the job, because I was a
mhm,
rookie. And so for me, I think both of those hurt in a way. Like, well, not
mhm,
the first one. I say the New York Times one hurt in a way, because I didn't understand like why that was important to write about. I didn't
mhm.
understand where this came from. I was like, Washington is the city of leaks. And so I was thinking, who like doesn't like me, or who did whatever to kind of
Yeah.
put this article out there.
Mhm.
But all those events were flawless. They were flawless, and they went great. We had no
Yeah.
problems, and
Yeah.
they were memorable, and the president and first lady were happy, as were our guests. And so it was like, Joke's on you. Joke's on you. Guess
Right.
this rookie pulled that off, you know?
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Right. But that, that is the nature of, you know, ambitious Black women having to always
Mhm.
prove themselves. And even when the work is flawless, they're still trying to find things to say, which becomes exhausting. Talk about, well, what was your one of your favorite events to put on?
Um, I mean, there are so many. I would say that we had an event called, it was like an Obama celebration, and it was the BET party basically. And we had a big concert, and then we had an after party with D Nice. And the reason why I love this event so much is because the artists that were there were like, it was like De La Soul, The
Oh,
Roots,
yeah.
Jill Scott. So it was in a way like, even though De La's not from Philly, they did a lot in Philly. So in a way, it was like the Philadelphia folks who I grew up writing about, which was the Square
Yeah.
Roots, The Roots, and Jill Scott, and they were like right in
Yes.
front of me, and BBD was there, and it was this
Ooh.
whole like this whole like Deesha, like if I could have curated a concert, that would have been the concert, right? And
Yes.
so I think that just being on the side dancing, like just watching it all happen, the president and first lady dancing, and that was probably, and that was towards the end. So
Yeah.
it was one of these like, this is the most amazing, role. This is like a time that is gonna, I'm not gonna ever get back again,
Yes.
or ever
Yes.
live. And so I'd say that was one of my favorites, as well as like the Pope. That was definitely a favorite too.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that's what I'd
Yes.
say. Yeah.
So, what are you, in addition to that wonderful event, what are you most proud of from your work
Hmm.
during that time?
Oh, child. Okay, so I would say that I'm extremely proud that I did not compromise who
Mm,
I was for the sake of a job or for the
mm,
sake of a person. And I think
mm,
that when you have that high level of a job,
mhm,
and you have that, just that pressure, and that, imposter syndrome, all the things
mhm,
externally and internally, it would have been very easy for me to change into a person who wears fancy clothes or
mhm,
fancy jewelry or talks
mhm,
different or
mhm.
wants to be in these circles, but that was never me. And so I think that I'm very thankful, and I'm most proud that I, even though it was hard because
Yeah.
it wasn't easy, that I didn't compromise myself, and that caused me to lose friends, if that caused me to
Mm,
not be invited to stuff, if that caused me to be talked about. Um, it hurt, but I had to be okay with that. And so
yeah.
I think that for me, looking back now, as hard as and lonely as that was at times, I'm so proud of myself because I could have easily, and even today, living back in the area, it's like there's nothing against some of these things. I'm just not interested. It's just not
Yeah.
what I want to do. I know that if I were to get in certain crowds, my book probably would sell a lot more. I would whatever, but it's literally a pain. Like it's literally like I don't feel comfortable. And there's something bad with that. It's just that this is not the spot in which I bloom, and so I'm not going to plant here. But
Yeah.
I'm okay with other people doing that. And so I think that I'm most proud of not compromising. No matter what it costs me, that the cost was worth it.
So, every episode is a therapy session for me, honey. So,
Me too. Me
right, I want
too.
to
When I
dig into
listen
that just a
back, I'll be
little
like,
bit
"Ooh, yes."
because being in a place like Hollywood, I see
Mm,
people compromising many things on a consistent basis. So I'm
hmm.
curious what tools you used or
Yeah.
how were you able to
Hmm.
maintain your sense of self in such a high
Hmm.
powered world?
Hmm. So I'll say this. I'm going to just prefix with this is that I don't blame people for having to switch because sometimes it's survival. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to get between nobody and their money or nobody and the
Mhm.
opportunities. So some people, they know that's what they're doing and they're okay
Mhm.
with that. And that's fine. So I'm
Yeah.
not putting anybody down. I think that what I would say is that Felicia, honestly, I don't know how I did it, but I just know that when the feeling was in my stomach that something did not feel
Mhm.
right, and then I'd back away from it, or I like there would be my stomach would settle, like I would
Mhm.
settle, and I
Mhm.
never like that feeling of feeling sick or feeling like I couldn't
Ooh.
go home to Philadelphia and like go on the block and have young Black girls run up to me and be like, "Oh my God, I'm at the White House," and me look in their face with like
Mm.
and tell them that like all these glitzy and glammy things that I'm doing that didn't feel right, I had to go home and face
Mhm.
them. And
Mhm.
now all those girls are in high school or college,
Mhm.
and they thank me. They're just like, I remember when you came and told me, I remember when you did this. And one of them is actually at the White House right now. So it's one
Wow.
of these things where I didn't know. I mean, part of it is probably Philly. Same with you with Baltimore. It's ingrained, and I don't
Mhm.
know. Like I just can't. I can compromise sometimes, but when it comes to my existence and when it comes to my confidence, when it comes to me feeling good about myself and staying true, I just can't. And I think
Yeah.
that the key to that was knowing that I would lose things that would give me instant gratification,
Woo.
maybe opportunities, maybe sales, but I had to trust, like I'm a believer in God. So I also had to trust in my faith to be like, what is, if I'm really saying
Yes.
to people, what is for me is for me, then
Yes.
I need to believe that. And if it
Yes.
passed me by, it wasn't for me. And that's also getting me off the hook of accountability of not working hard enough. Like sometimes
Mm.
stuff be passing me by because I'll be sleeping. That's on me, right? But I think that with this conversation that we're talking about,
Yeah.
it feels so good at 46. Like, and I try to tell people, I know I ain't believe it either. When people elders would be like, when you get older, I'd be like, they just saying that because they old. Like, you know what I mean? Like they just saying that because they need to feel good. But I swear to beads, I feel so good. I'd be like, listen, y'all, promise you,
Yes.
I promise it gets, for me, it gets better. Like it
Oh,
got to get
child,
better.
it is good over here, honey.
It is good. It is good. It is. I am embraced. I am thankful. Not
Yes.
every day is peachy, but I'm
Yes.
thankful. I
Yes.
am.
I love that. Ooh, you're speaking to me. You're speaking to my heart. So thank you for that. You
Of
mentioned
course.
imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
And I want to talk about a little bit about that because especially as Black women, I feel like we deal with that in different ways. And so in
Hmm.
2024, you published the memoir Undiplomatic, which tells
Hmm.
the amazing journey of how you, a part-time community college student, snagged this highly coveted position in the White House. And you talked about how you triumphed over your imposter syndrome in order to realize your full potential. Talk to me a little bit about your perspective about
Yeah.
uh, imposter syndrome and how you
Yeah.
felt like you triumphed over it.
Hmm. For me, I didn't know what imposter syndrome was until, probably in my 30s. It wasn't a conversation that we had. But even when I learned about what it was, I thought that we all, like, it was just like a thing that we all had in the sense
Mhm.
that we all have a foundation, a bottom line of doubt. Like I was
Yes.
like, don't we all feel that way? In a way that I made it normal. And I also made it my fault. Like, Deesha, if you
Mm.
just go get one more degree, you will get out of this. If you
Mm.
get a promotion, you will get out of this. If you just do your affirmations and meditations every day, lose
Mm.
weight, you'll get out of this. And so I think that I tried all those things because I was like, this is my fault and my thing to get rid of. And then I realized, like, probably in my late 30s, turning 40, I realized that it's a sham. Like, I always say it's a scam. It's a
Yes.
genius move to make us feel like something is wrong with us and it's working as designed. Imposter
Mhm.
syndrome is a system of systems of oppression and microaggressions and biases that chip away at who we are until then we look at ourselves like, I'm at fault for being
Yes.
loud. I'm at fault for having a wide nose. I'm at fault for this,
Mm.
that, I don't look or whatever. And so now for me, I completely flipped it on its head and I'm just like, no, this is not my fault. Like
Mhm.
imposter syndrome was planted in me since I was a young Black girl, told that she was too loud and too defiant. And when you
Mhm.
tell somebody that who doesn't have a mature brain yet, they're going to think that they're bad, they're not wanted. And then
Yes.
as my life kept going, I kept hearing it. So those roots that were planted basically sprouted into this tree that grew as I grew. And so
Ooh.
it permeated everything I did. And then when I realized, like, oh, wait, the people in power are very happy with us feeling
Mhm.
inferior. They're
Mhm.
very happy with us taking our time to make sure that we feel confident and we
Mhm.
feel good, because then we will never access or realize the power that we have within ourselves and all
Ooh.
those faults that people said. And so now for me, I always say that I manage my imposter syndrome because there's times where
Okay.
it does come and go.
Mhm.
And when you're nervous about something you've never done, Like nerves is one thing. You should be
Right.
nervous. Like I've
Right.
never done it. I'm
Right.
nervous, right?
Right.
But you're worthy and you're qualified. But I think for me, I had to get used to saying that to myself and saying that out loud, because when we were younger, it was like, oh, she full of herself. Oh, she
Right.
conceited.
She
Oh,
thinks
she
she
thinks
cute.
she all that. Yeah, she thinks
Right.
she thinks cute. And now I'm like, actually, I do.
I
Actually,
am.
I do. And I hope you do too,
Yes.
because like we are, especially Black women, we are the royalty, the standard, and everybody would be
Yes.
copying us and trying to keep us down and lift themselves up. And so now for me, I go out and I give this message where it's not, achievements, and I can't cure it, but I can walk alongside you when you realize that you can put that weight down because it was never your fault,
Woo.
and live a different
Put
way.
it down. Put it
Yeah, put it
down.
put it down, put it down. And I feel fun. Like, I put on Instagram. I was like, yeah, I feel good. I look good. And at first I was like, should I delete that? And I was like, no, I ain't deleting that. You know what I mean? Like it took me 46 years to get here. Like, oh no,
Child.
no,
Child,
please.
talk about it. A long
Yeah,
time.
a
I
long
love that. I love
time.
that. It is not ours and it's not our fault.
It's
I
not
think
ours.
that's huge. I think
It's not
that's huge.
ours. Hmm.
Well, I want to talk about some adventures that you've had in your
Yeah.
40s because I love this. One of your big adventures was earlier this spring, you graduated level 1 birth training to be a doula. I
Hmm.
love that. Talk about one, why, like what made
Hmm.
you go on that journey? What was that journey like? And this adventure, I just want to hear about it.
Yes, I think it kind of has the same tone as this podcast. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always
Yes.
been involved in the reproductive justice space, health space, abortion space,
Yeah.
and I was like, we have, this issue with, Black maternal health and Black maternal
Mhm.
mortality, and so
Mhm.
much. And I'm not going to have children. I don't want to have children, so that's okay.
Mhm.
But I kept thinking, besides my activism, what else can I bring to the table? And so when I learned about what a doula really is, and my dear friend Latham Glow Maven does a class, Mama Glow, I was like, I'm going to take this to learn how I can
Yeah.
add to my portfolio of knowledge and activism,
Yeah.
but also make it so it's in a giving way. How can I be a voice for Black women in a room, when they're giving birth, or helping
Yes.
them after they give birth? Or
Yeah.
how can I be that advocate at a time that's so stressful for them, beautiful but stressful for them in different ways, so they don't get taken advantage of, so
Yeah.
like they do have a voice in the room. And so that for me is really the focus of why I wanted to start the doula training.
Yeah.
And then my next step is to become an abortion doula, so that's my next
Wow.
step, and then a postpartum doula. So those are like my next two steps, to because that's who I've always been. I accompany young women to abortions now. It's just Deesha,
Yeah.
so I'm like, if I
Yeah.
can get some more training, I'm never above learning, and I want to learn.
Yes.
More. I love learning, so being able to learn more about it. But yeah, it's just another thing
That's
to add.
beautiful. What an adventure. And what I love about
Yeah.
this new, like you said, adding to your toolbox is the various ways that you have walked in your activism, right?
Hmm.
Through writing, through actually working on an institutional level to now like the giving piece of it from a nurturing
Hmm.
standpoint. Like it's just really beautiful how your activism has taken on so many different
Thank you.
roles
Hmm.
and lives. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So you mentioned not having kids and not wanting
Hmm.
kids, and you
Mm-mm.
recently got married in your
I
40s.
did. I did.
Congratulations,
Thank
honey.
you. Thank you.
Because as I know that we can get a little comfortable, right? We get comfortable with
Yes. Yes.
ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
So how did you make space for love and marriage
Hmm.
in your very full life? And also I would love to talk a little bit about your decision to not have kids.
Yeah. So, went through a tough period right after it was a terrible breakup and moved to New York and a bunch of other things where I just was broken down, and the kind of
Mhm.
broken down where you can't even put like, one foot off the bed. And I
Mhm.
realized then that I needed help. And so, I, found a great church that focused on mental health, which was
Oh,
really important to
amazing.
me. Got a great Black woman therapist, and then
Yeah.
started going to the gym and got a really great personal trainer to kind of help bring me back a little bit to who I was, or
Mhm.
or revise that. And so I didn't date for about a year or 2 years because I knew that if I dated, before I was not done the completion, but deep into the healing, or just kind of comfortable with that person would fill in for my
Yeah.
healing. I'm like, oh,
Ooh.
you fix everything. You love me.
Right.
I love you.
Right.
Fixed, you know.
Right.
And so once I started dating, and I started swiping again, I met this guy who I thought was rich, first of all, because he's from Connecticut, and his profile picture was on a boat, and I was like, oh my God, Lord, you have blessed me. And so, but turns out he's not, but it's okay. He's a do-gooder like me, and
Yeah.
so he works on behalf of people, yay. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
we met, and I think that the best thing about Wes and I, who's my husband, meeting is that we dated. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he went home at the
Mm.
end of the night. I went
Yeah.
home at the end of the night. Like, there was
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
and it felt really good. And then the pandemic happened. We thought we'd spend 2 weeks together making pizza and dancing, and now we're married. But I think that one of the best things is that he's Wes is a big kid, and I think that I didn't have a
Mm.
childhood a lot, so he's
Mhm.
very much like, let's go snow tubing, let's go do this, let's have
Yes.
fun, like we have a great time. And
Yes.
we just like any other marriage, like you got to compromise and you got to
Yeah.
talk things out. But I'm just so happy because
Oh,
he cares for me unconditionally, and I don't
yes.
have to ask for it, and so
Yes.
getting married was very much like, I can't believe this is happening. And
Yeah.
I was never my, like, my dream or anything like that. And so when I met Wes, because Wes, I'm his second wife, and so I always urge people over 40 be a second wife, because
Yeah.
they made all their
Agreed.
mistakes in the first one. And
Agreed.
so, like, good, be immature in the first one. And so when I met him, I was like, I don't want to have children. He's like, well, neither do I. I'm like, great. And there was never any
Mhm.
change in my mind. I think part
Mhm.
of that was, I don't know if there's a couple of reasons. I don't know if I knew I would know how to be a good mother. And I know everybody says they
Mhm.
don't, but
Mhm.
I really don't know if I do. I have it in me.
Mhm.
I'm selfish. I like my time.
Mhm. Mhm.
I like
And
eating
to
for
know
myself.
that and admit that is huge, because
I
I feel
do.
like as
Wes is the same
women,
way.
yeah, Black women, we're not supposed to
Mm,
say that if that's how we feel. So to be
no.
able to admit that is
I love
freeing.
my time.
Yeah.
I'm the best aunt there is, but like, I
Yeah.
love my time. And my brother's got 3 kids. So if I ever feel like I want any, then I just, snatch one
Go
of
get
those.
one.
And they're all older. So I've already, and then, I think lastly is, I can't guarantee that I can protect a young Black child at all times. And I know,
Mm.
again, a lot of Black parents go through this, but I was not willing to take that risk,
Ooh,
especially as when we saw Trayvon and Freddie Gray
yeah.
and all these. Like, I'm okay. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I have it in me. And blessed to those who do. And I appreciate you
Yeah.
asking, because it's hard to say those things without people feeling like you're getting down on them for having kids. I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
no. It's just my choice, and
Yeah.
I respect everybody else's choice. So yeah, but I'm very happy
Absolutely.
with the decision.
Well, first of all, we love that you are happy, honey.
Yes,
Happy
yes.
and healthy and very, very
Hmm.
inspiring. So
Thank you.
what is next for you? What's next for you?
I'm trying to just grow my business still, Hook and Fasten.
Yeah, talk
Uh,
about
you
Hook
know,
and Fasten, your social impact firm.
Yeah, so we marry up corporations and community for sustainable impact. And so
Mm.
that means, how do we eliminate the need, but also alleviate the need? So it's like we give people food who are hungry, but how can we use whatever we have to make it so they don't need to stand in the line to get lunch, that everybody
Mhm.
is fed? So we work on the flash impact and the sustainable impact. And
Oh,
it's wonderful.
amazing.
I love it because I'm trusted by the corporations, because Obama, White House, look at her.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Yeah.
trusted by the community because of activism, social work, community leader.
Yes.
And so I can make that bridge connection between the two. So we're always trying to grow that. But I think that, more than anything, I'm leaning into the creative. I bought my bundle. I bought your
Yes, honey. She
bundle.
bought her
That I,
build bundle.
yes, I did. I be
And
following
you can
along, get
get
my
yours too.
yes, that's follow along, and it's a good
honeychild.com.
value. It's a
That's
good
child.
value, people. By the way, and so I'm, getting my creative back again, writing
Yeah.
again, seeing where we
Yes.
want to go with the book. I never
Yes.
thought about it turning into something else, but the more we
Yes.
talk about it, like, it's like, oh, this is fun for me to do. So I love that I'm leaning
Yeah.
into the creative side, seeing what's up. I would love to live overseas at some point in the next
You
couple
and
of
me both, and
years. Child,
I'm working on it. What's some of your places you thinking about?
anywhere but America, child. Like, just take me, take me to the water. It doesn't matter. I don't know any other language. Unfortunately, my husband speaks. He speaks a fluent Arabic, but I
Oh
don't know any other
wow.
language.
Yeah.
So, but I'll learn. I could do Duolingo. I could do all them things. So there's that. He's lived outside the country before. I've never had that experience, and so I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of family in London, so
Yeah.
maybe London. But that's what I say right now. It's just, I don't know. I'm just having fun with curiosity and
Yeah.
creativity and trying to keep these bills paid, girl. That's it.
That's it. That's enough. That is enough. Well, I want to take us to the segment we call pleasure principle. Two of
Hmm.
our words at Honeychild are desire and pleasure, and we define them very expansively. Anything that you want and anything that makes us feel good. So, what does pleasure seeking look like for you?
Mm. Hmm. That's a good question. I would say that pleasure seeking for me, um, is just solitude to think and create.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's it for me. And whatever that create is, it could be just doodling on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It could be, just dancing in my living room. But I think the solitude, meaning that, it's just me because I
Yeah.
have the space to be silly. Even though I love my husband, there's no, is he looking at me? And so I think that just the solitude to rest and create and to relax, I think that is pleasure for me.
I love that.
Mhm.
Tell us one of your deepest desires at this age.
Oh, Felicia. I know you told me this before, and I was like, dang, that's so many. I think that my deepest desires at this age, and I'm going to be selfish and talk about me versus like my nieces, hope they get jobs and they're wealthy. But I think that for me, my deepest desire is to, yeah, I say to move, to go somewhere to a place that nobody knows me. I don't know
Yeah.
anybody else except my husband. And
Yeah.
we just explore a new life just to
Yeah.
see what life is like on the other side of the
Yeah.
ocean or the pond, or and learn a language, be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
learn new customs and cultures. I think that just that, obviously I travel, but you can only travel as your budget allows. But like
Yeah.
if I could go somewhere and live there and be ingrained in the culture, I think that's one of my deepest desires because I love the soaking up the knowledge, and I love just having conversations and meeting people that know absolutely nothing about me. And
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
just it's just you get to create your own narrative, and what a
I
beauty
love
that
that.
is. What a beauty that
Sounds
is.
very freeing, very freeing.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm
Um,
going for, girl.
yes. Okay, so this is kind of rapid fire. The name of our show is It's Good Over Here. Tell us what's
Mhm.
something that is getting better for you right now.
Sex.
Yes, honey. Amen.
when
That
you
is one
when
of
you
the
ex-
best answers we've gotten. So
Yes, when you accept your body and you love your body, and like it's a whole
yes,
different, and
yes,
you've come to terms with like your body, and you've come to terms with things that happen to you. It's a healing
yes,
process. That's what I would
yes. I love that.
say.
What would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self that you you're beautiful and worthy and valued as
Yes,
is. Like there
yes.
needs to be no higher degree. There needs to be no hair weave. There needs to be
Mhm.
no nothing. You are worthy just as is. You're born that way. So just walk it out, and everything else that you add is just extra.
Yes. And what do you swear by as a honey? Could be a beauty product, health, a ritual, a routine.
I swear by it's this it's I don't use anything on my, so I'm a basic girl. Like I
Yeah.
use Dove soap and that's it.
I
Like
use
don't get me
ponds
in
and that's it.
listen, don't get me in all these routines,
Right.
because what happens is you get in all these routines and then you stop using it, and that's when you break out. So then you got to keep using it. So I don't no, I grew up on Noxema and Dial, so I'm good. But I do swear by this face. It's called a self-made, be self-made, and it's a face.
Oh.
It's just like a serum, and I
Ooh.
put that on my face afterwards, and my skin is just. I mean, I love my skin anyway, but it's just so clear. And I'll be watching these beauty influencers with like 20 products, and I'm like, y'all,
You're
just
like, pop, pop,
just
pop, done.
just get that one. So I swear by that, and I swear by binging in front of the TV with chocolate ice cream with crushed up
Yeah.
pretzels.
I
That's what
love,
I swear by.
I love that. Well, thank you. This has been such a pleasure, Deesha. I love speaking with you. I love your perspective. I love the
Thank
gems. And
you.
again, you have spoken to me. So I know that you have spoken to a lot of honeys through this episode. So I'm super, super grateful for having you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Where can people find you? What would you like to us to check out? Of course, your book, Undiplomatic, which
Yes,
I'm sure can
please.
be found anywhere online and in bookstores. Where else
Yes.
can we find you and how else can we support you?
Before I say that, I want to thank you because all that you do to make sure that we tap into our creativity and our curiosity
Thank
and
you.
the sacrifices that you have made to make sure everybody else feels fulfilled. I thank you for that. So
Thank
that's that.
you.
And people can find me the book anywhere, and please buy it. It's a great gift.
Yes,
Black women authors need support big time. Only two
absolutely.
percent of us
Please
be
pick it up.
publishing. Wherever you can get it from a bookstore, you can request it at your library if finances is an issue. And then I'm most active on Instagram, which is D Dyer, DEEDYER 267. But also my website is just DeeshaDyer.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you
Mhm.
again. This has been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
I thank you.
Thank you. I'm so honored. Thank you.
It's Good Over Here is a Honey Child thing. Honey Child is a media company that speaks to Black women 40 plus, honeys as we like to call them, across audio, digital, film, TV, books, and more. Don't forget to follow Honey Child on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at It's Honey Child. And visit our website at honey-child.com. For bonus content and other exclusive Honey Dip stories, subscribe to our Substack at yeshoney.substack.com. That's yeshoney.substack.com. Until next time, honeys, it's good over here. You coming?